Today is Sunday, February 4th. This is Journal 4, and I'm going to talk about the role of the athletic trainer in the process of rehab. From my early observation days, so spring semester of my freshman year, there was a lot of rehabs going on during season. I think what I mostly observed was spring football season, and then baseball as well. There were a lot of athletes for the football team still recovering from things that had happened in the fall, and some had surgery and were just now doing range of motion, and others were close to the functional part, like I guess where you get into the sport specific, like the cutting, the jumping, stopping on a dime. With baseball, it was a lot of, what I saw was a lot of like replicating the movement to see if that caused pain or anything, treating that, and the most important thing that I learned was you have to teach them how to do the movements properly before letting them go on. One of the athletes was trying to, I guess, just get get back faster, and when he did that, he was cutting corners, and he got hurt again, not following rules and things like that. So the role of an athletic trainer in the rehab process, for me, and what I've noticed is that we are part of the rehab team. You have your physical therapist, and you have your surgeon, and you have your physical therapy assistant and things like that, but especially with athletes and someone who's constantly active, an athletic trainer would, in my opinion, have a better outlook on what needs to be done, especially because as an athletic trainer, we see the athlete or patient before they get hurt, so we know what their normal is anyways. And when they do get hurt, we know what their best is and how close they are to that, and if we think they're ready mentally, we know their level, I guess their psychological state, mental state before they get hurt. So we would be able to differentiate like those different reactions to the process, believing in it, things like that, especially with career-ending things when you're still trying to get them back to being able to complete everyday living activities. There's a lot of times where the athlete is like angry and very lonely and lost and things like that, and we are able to notice that a little more often because we know what they were before and how they've progressed. I think that our biggest something that puts us over just the regular physical therapy office would be the functional, sport-specific rehab techniques that we use to get the athletes return to play. We have to be very creative with what we do, trying to strengthen and build confidence and stuff like that. Very rarely we find it that athletes are super ready to try something new or to get back into cutting or jumping, something that has like could have put them out of the game or out of practice and everything. There's a lot of hesitation that we've noticed. So I guess putting them to that point where they feel safe and comfortable, starting small and building up, and then adding in a little bit of, if it's soccer, adding a little bit of passing and things like that, football, catching, and stuff like that. I think that we definitely do have the upper hand when it comes to athletes, even though most of the time surgeons will just send you to a physical therapy office. If you're an athlete, I think that you should be seeing an athletic trainer to do your rehab. I think that we have a bigger outlook on things, like we're not just doing things that everyone else does. We're going to do things that are really hard and really sport specific or movement specific to what you're doing if you're really active anyways. But I guess the biggest misconception is that people think that athletic trainers are only in like the sport setting, which is not true. Athletic trainers can have jobs really anywhere in a healthcare setting, and people don't know that, but we have, in most places where you get your athletic training degree, you have to go through the process of learning how to rehab and learning what you're good at and what you believe in and things like that. And really, it's all what you're comfortable with. But I guess what has helped shape my view of why we have a large role in the rehab process would be starting the class this semester, talking about how important it is for us to be involved, and especially the psychological things that happen with athletes and patients when they're injured, and if rehab isn't going as fast as they want it to be, and they don't believe in themselves, and they're not believing in their their own rehab, and they're not meeting their goals that we've set, trying to stay adamant on that. But also seeing how last fall, not this fall, last fall, when I was on the soccer team, there were 3 ACL injuries, all surgery, all had to get reconstruction surgery, all returned at different times. Same athletic trainer, their mindset, the athlete's mindset, how adamant they were about completing things the correct way and not complaining, not skipping the rehabs and stuff like that. But really, I think that the thing that has really made me have this opinion would be the class that we're taking. We just took our first test last week, and it talks about, like, we had to learn the healing process and why that's important to rehab, and why that's important to us as athletic trainers, but how to tell when an athlete is not getting better mentally is a big thing. But trusting the process is huge, and we have to get comfortable with what we're doing and how to explain it, and if we know it works or not. But I think rehab is huge in athletic training. Yes, injury prevention and things like that, but there are, freak injuries and just unlucky stuff where you still have to do rehab, or you're doing rehab because you're trying to make someone stronger because you don't want them to have a tear or anything like that. But yeah, rehab is huge. I'm excited to spend this whole semester on learning how to do rehab because there are just like so many things you can do. Yes, in the first part of the process, you're just treating pain and swelling and things like that. But then once you're in the repair phase, after you've gone through the inflammatory response phase, once you're in the repair phase, you can start range of motion. You can start like trying to get their mobility back. But once you are past that into the maturation stage, sport specific and being creative is huge. Trying to get the athlete comfortable with what they have to be doing when they get back into their sport instead of just, oh, you can complete this exercise, you're good to go, return to play. You need to get the athlete to a point where they can feel comfortable mentally and physically going back on and back into their sport. So that's our goal. But rehab is huge. And I totally think that we have the upper hand. I guess we don't have a master's in physical therapy or anything like that. But when it comes to the active people, the athletic people of the world, athletes, or just, people that are active and do everyday things to stay in shape, we are really good with that. That's just my opinion. I got 25 masteries. 24 masteries and I think 8. I'm pretty sure 8 attempts this week. We had a cervical practical, so I already had those attempts for that. But yeah, so coming along in my book, getting it signed early. Go me. But yeah, I'll be back next Sunday.